Yo, it's Guido coming at you with another review, and I have finished the Tier 6 in the Italian TD line. That is the Bassotto, or the Semovente M43 Bassotto, and I know I'm screwing that up. Doesn't matter. I call it the Bass. I never called it the Bass till right now. Although, as I look at it, it might be the Bassotto. The Bassotto. Look at this thing. It looks a lot like the Tier 5, just a little bit larger. But I will say it is tiny in comparison to most of the, in fact, if not all of the other Tier 6s. It is certainly low slung. Check this out. IKV, taller. ARL, taller. WZ, taller. And these are all of the smaller ones. Churchill, massive. Excalibur, gigantic. Just to check it out, look at that. Just a little guy with a really large gun. It's like a 102. I'm telling you, if that little tiny vehicle shot that gun, and I don't even know where the breech is. Is it? I don't know. It seems like it would just come firing out the back end of that thing. It's ridiculous. It is a massive gun on this, and that is the story of this particular TD. If you were to walk away from the video right now, please don't, but you can if you want to. It's all about the gun, my friends. It is all about the gun. So let's take a quick look at, what is this thing? I think this one is actually a fantasy tank, but in 1942, they came up with an idea to deploy an assault tank destroyer with a 105mm howitzer. Oh boy. The project was developing rather slowly. They took a lot of breaks, being Italians. So instead, the officials decided to use an improved chassis in the mass-produced Caro, yada yada. This feature, blah, prototype completed in 43, and it became the first Italian vehicle to be partially welded. Great. Catching up. 20 years behind, working half days to catch up. I'm assuming they were all riveted up to that point. What happened to this thing? Before Italy's capitulation on September 8th, 30 vehicles had already been manufactured and sent to military units. Later, they fell into the hands of the Germans, who set up and continued the production between 43 and 44. 121 more were produced. All right, so this one was actually out there. Doesn't say anything about whether it fought, but you have to assume that it did. In the game, though, it has a massive, massive gun. Let's take a quick look at the research on how you're going to do this. I came obviously through the Tier 5. When I got here, I want to say the radio was already unlocked from another Italian tank. I talked about this on Coffee Talk last week. I do not recommend trying to grind through the Tier 5 gun. It is so anemic. It will be nothing but frustration. If you have the free experience, if you're a person who wants to grind through it all and doesn't want to use free experience for modules, at least get this gun. And I don't remember, honestly, if you needed the tracks to put it on or not, but I highly, highly recommend get the next gun. It's 240 Alpha with at least kind of competitive penetration. And then when you get to the large gun, you're talking about 360 Alpha, 175 pen standard. This is Tier 6, guys. 215 with the gold round. There is a derp gun I haven't messed with over here. You can take a look at that at your own leisure. There are two engines you're going to go through, and obviously the tracks. I did grind the rest of this stuff. I just got really tired of that bottom gun, and I did go up to the Tier 7 with free experience. From there, I ground out the rest of it. I want to say it was about 40,000 experience, but break. What I don't remember is if I had some blueprints. I might have. So don't quote me on the 40,000 once you get through all the guns right here, but that's how you're going to get on to the Tier 6. This tank does not have the autoloader. You will not get an autoloader on these tanks till Tier 7, and it's not until the top gun on the Tier 7, just for future thoughts. Going back to the garage, you can see, as I said, it's low slung. There are 3 crew, so the same crew from the 5 will go to the 6, and then from the 6 to the 7, it will increase to 4 crew members. The radio operator is the loader, I believe, on these. So then it goes to the commander in the 4 crew setup, so there might be a little bit of messing around with crew skills right there. I had 3 crew that I used for the 5 all the way through the 6. I had a 4th that was going to catch up to them, and I threw him in with the 7. As you can see, the crew is not in there right now. Let's take a quick look and a comparison and kind of get a general idea for this. This is an interesting one for me because it's a little bit different. Not completely. Now, 360 sounds like a high alpha at Tier 6, but remember the Su-100Y has 440. But it's massive. Remember that? Remember how big this thing is? Let's just for comparison. 360 alpha gun, and then we have this monster. with the 440 Alpha gun. All right, that's crazy. Looking at the other numbers, 175 is competitive with the rest, not quite Churchill GC levels. If we come down, the gun loading is long at 9, but not quite 100Y levels. It is a bit derpy at 0.4 with the dispersion. Nearly everything else is better. In fact, the 100Y is 0.36, and it feels derpy as heck. The Su-100 is 0.41, a little worse. Remember, that's a 390 Alpha gun, so I put the big Alpha heavy hitters here. The ARL and the Su-100 and the Churchill all hit pretty hard out there. And I had forgotten, actually, about the Su-100, that it had a 122 on it at Tier 6, but it's quite derpy. What this means, though, is when you put it all together, it comes out with a serious amount of DPM. Because of a relatively short reload and a really nice Alpha at 360, you're hitting 2,323 DPM, and that is well better than the 390 Alpha Su-100 at 1,900 with a comparable dispersion. Very, very interesting, and a pretty darn good aiming time. Now, it feels long, because it is, but everything else is just about as long or slightly inside of it with the rest of these guns. So very strange decision here to have both the best DPM and one of the best Alphas on this tank. It really does spit rounds down range. The derpy gun will hurt your feelings on occasion. Really doesn't have a whole lot of armor right here. I'm just going to call this up very quickly because, yeah, there you go. It's all green, folks. I mean, it's 70 or so, 86 on the bottom. There's no real angles, a slight angle there, but no mantlet to speak of. It gets pinned. It just does. So this is a tank you're going to want to minimize its exposure. Hide in bushes, has good camo. If we come down here, let's take a look at that real quick. We're looking at 27, which is not bad, but we can get that into the 30s with a little bit of setup. Remember, that's just it sitting there without equipment or skills or anything. 100% cruise, no equipment, folks. You start adding stuff, we're going to get into the 30s, and this little bad boy is going to be stealthy. I mean, even the Su-100 is only sitting at 22, so it's 5 better right off the top. Just a tiny little tank. Speed's okay at 35. Reverse is very nice at 15. Put a turbo on it, and you're loving life. That is how I ran mine. And that's pretty much all there is to say about it, other than it does run with fairly low hit points at 600, so it's the lowest of this lot. It doesn't have a lot of staying power. 600 is not much. You know, there are tier 8s that almost do that much with one shot, especially if they hit you with an HE, but you're certainly a 2-shot to most things out there, tier 8, especially heavies. All right, so be careful with that one. What do we have there? Essentially on the comparison, a very interesting animal. High DPM with a derpy gun and high alpha. The only thing really keeping it down overall is the derpiness, which can be tamed. How? Well, take a look at it. And again, I don't have my crew in here to help me out with Brothers in Arms and such, but I do have the IA on it. That's what I ran. I ran a turbo to get a little more speed, and I had vents. That brings me down to a 0.37. I believe with the crew, I got to 0.35, maybe 3.6, somewhere in there. So you can bring the gun down to a reasonable dispersion. As it sits here, again, without the crew and Brothers in Arms, and plus the bonus for the commander, yada, 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 2,386 DPM, so it gets going. Take a look at the rounds. We're talking about 175 on the standard AP. It's actually APCR. And then we have a heat round sitting at 215. The velocity is a little bit slow. 711 is starting to get in that point where it feels like softballs going down range. So that's not very fast. 900 is okay with the APCR. And then we've got a HE round that's only got 45 pen hitting for 440, so it's okay. There is the derp gun on it. You can run that as well. I didn't mess with that very much, so I can't speak to it too much. So this is how I ran it. Like I said, advanced turbo IA. I didn't run any directives. I had regular kits and a fire extinguisher. I did not run any food on this. I will say this thing tended to get its engine broken a bunch. I mean, I lost my engine on this constantly. I am a little more aggressive player than most. You might go, well, how are you losing your engine? Well, because I drove up front a lot. Also realize, and I'll show you 2 games with this, that I was fighting a lot of others of these because it's just released. It's just TD v TD kind of silliness out there. So I tended to be up front and forward a little more than you probably want to play this game or play this particular tank in the future or as a TD player. But just be forewarned that once it does start taking shots, I found the engine to be extremely breakable in there. Let's see how I did. I got a 60% win rate in it on 30 battles. That's how long it took me to unlock. Remember, I did buy the second gun with free experience, and then I unlocked everything else minus the radio, which I already had. So it only took me 30 battles to get through that with all the different bonuses and things. It did use a lot of personal reserves. That's not very long to get through it. 719 average XP per battle, almost 1,000 damage per battle. We're looking at 61.89 of the hits. That's a little low, and it speaks to the derpiness of the gun. I did, on occasion, struggle to hit things. Damage ratio and destruction ratio are pretty good. Look at the armor use. I mean, it's just, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't have any armor. It doesn't even really have a mantlet to bounce stuff. You might occasionally bounce stuff off the gun or get a really, really weird angle and bounce something randomly off of the tank itself. But 0.01 is, for all intents and purposes, 0. Is there an average damage blocked by armor from these types? 5.33. That sounds like I bounced one shot somewhere or two shots in 30 battles somewhere along the way. Very nice. Maybe two. It might be 2 or 3. The rest of the number is pretty standard in there. I did have a 2,000 damage game. We'll show you that one. And I did get a 7 kill game. I believe it was the same or maybe one of the other battles I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some gameplay in the Tier 6 Bassotto. In the Bassotto. Here we go. All right, the 7 kill and the 2,000 damage game were two different games. And I'm reminded why I kept those two, because it's kind of instructive. If you look at this, I am top tier. You don't get a lot of top tier games, obviously, at Tier 6. I have Tier 4s to beat up. But when you're talking about 360 Alpha, you become quite the monster. So we're going to do a lot of closing out of tanks with that big 360 Alpha. I come up to this here kind of standard position for TDs or snipers on steeps. It's steeps. Don't even try to correct me. Don't even try to correct me. That's how it's pronunciated. Steeps. I'm just shooting into this standard bush. I'm trying to get till my bush is fully dark. Take a shot. We'll back out. I'm going to hang out here looking for shots. This takes a little while. The guys over at the cap start getting busy. This is one of the games I didn't kind of rush forward and get in front of people. I shoot that. One of the reasons I kind of did that without making the bush go dark, I was just curious if I was going to get lit. View ranges tend to be kind of poor. This thing actually has decent view range for a Tier 6 TD, not amazing. The Matilda and the P2640 go running in there. There are... Well, it feels like there's more arty than there is, but it looks like both their arty and our arty were shooting in the same direction. I just missed that shot, unfortunately. There's the derpiness. Kind of hard to make that happen. T1 Heavy's blazing on in there. And we're just going to hang out. We got a couple guys up to our right. This is pretty typical low-tier gameplay. If you take a look at what is going on over here, I don't know what this KV-1's doing. He's got his nice position there. He's just waiting for old Sammy 450. He's waiting to get thumped for 376. I don't know. I screw this up a little bit. I see the T1 there. Kind of watch him. I'm wondering if he's going to come forward. I look over here, and I believe he's going to make a move here pretty quickly. I shoot, and that's when he goes. Naturally. One of the dangers of a blind shot, if you're on a reload and you have a subsequent shot, you may miss it right off the bat. We're losing pretty badly, 3-1. Down a few hit points. I was hoping he would try to cross there, but it doesn't look like he's going to. Then we have this Panzer 3J wander out. We'll spin around, we get lit. Let's get our rear end behind this rock right here. I should have pushed right towards him. Now he's headed after. There's another miss. Oof, right, little curveball to the right, down right into the dirt. There's that decent speed, right? Turbo, zinging along. What are we doing? 39, almost 40? That's not bad. It's not bad at all. And we're going to let this zoom in so we can get a nice shot on him when we close him out. So we do 326 to close him out, and that's what I was talking about with the lower tier or near deads. Because you got a 360 alpha, that's really nice. And I'm thinking, ooh, T1, just come around here. Nice little shot. Okay, he's definitely within one shot range. Nicely zoomed, and no. I think I was probably 1 or 2 potatoes away from fully zoomed anyway. Looked like he was going to get down below the edge there before I could shoot, so I took a stab at it, and all of a sudden it's 7-8. So we've had a lot of action over there on the east side. We're going to head over there, use that nice speed we get with the turbo. Think about this without it, you'd be doing, 35, 34. It can be very painful. So I highly recommend the turbo, especially if you want to try to get around the battlefield at all in this thing. Head towards the middle. I was hoping to get a light on that Bassotto to bring him, the other Bassotto over there, to bring him into draw distance. A little bit dangerous going through the middle, but as I kind of look at what's left, it's all TDs minus the M8A1, which he was down in the southwest right there, so I'm not too worried about him. Although he's pretty quick, so he could be nearly anywhere by now if he's left that general area. Our guys in the cap are getting pretty beat up. So I've bailed out. I got the Panzer 3G over here. And as I approach, I'm thinking, all right, am I going to go across the flat and try to take all these guys on? Because all of a sudden, we're down quite a few tanks, right? It's 8 to 10. A little bit better. Oh, there goes our E8. Now it's 8 to 11. So I'm going to sit up here. They are not on cap right now, so I'm not too worried. There they go. Now there's 2 on. So I just said, all right, we're going to have to go forward. Don't take off any hit points. That was close. And I know they're down hit points, so I'm thinking, all right, they are near to single shot. They are near to the single shot closeout kind of area. I've got the 3J that's moved up with me, so they're kind of busy looking at him. Now, I want to get in there to the cap before whatever they have left over in the southwest starts moving its way back over, right? I don't want to give them enough time to start gathering their forces. The LEF just nukes one. There's a near-dead Bassotto. We'll just come up and over. We'll shoot him on the way in. The Stug 3B is making a runner. See if we can one-shot him, maybe. Oh, let's shave a few off with a ram, and then we'll kill him. And we'll start moving. I believe I have controlled impact on this as part of the defensive mechanism. It's a pretty good crew. So we only took 2, and we did 25. So that was enough to bring him pretty comfortably within single-shot kill area, right? So we needed just 355 to kill him as opposed to the 380 that it was before, which that required a fairly high roll. And we didn't lose too many hit points, losing only 2. That's very nice. So we'll run off. I don't really want to take them all on together. I see the P2640 coming back to help me, and the LEF is moving into a better position. We've got some decent hit points over us still. I really don't know what those guys look like because they were on the other side of the map, so they could have a lot less hit points than what's showing, especially the M8A1 dude right there. Very slowly, the P2640 is going to start thinking about coming back. They are not on cap, and I have 8 minutes, so I really feel like there's no reason to get too crazy. Okay, there's one. There's one on cap, so I know where 1 of the 3 are. There's 2, so I know where 2 of the 4 are. 3. There are 4. Math is hard. So I'm thinking I'm going to start moving up a little bit. Just want to be in position to try to get in there and get shots. I'm watching the P2640 come over here. He's finally starting to make a good move towards us to help. I'm going to pop up here and see if I get lit or if I see somebody. Nope, okay, that's fine. So there's nobody up top looking. There should be somebody up there watching. What I'm thinking is there's 2 on cap, and then I catch this guy, right? I just wanted to look around the corner, and he was not one of the 2 on. He just was moving when I came around the corner, and we were able to nuke him. That's 280, well within single shot. All right. What else do I know now is the LEF is off that way. Now, based on what I saw, it looks like he's past the cap. So he's got 2 tanks, the M8A1 and the Bassotto on the cap, and then the LEF is back behind him somewhere. Maybe up on the hill, but based on the angle, he didn't look like he was too far up the hill. Here comes the 2640. There's another LEF shot. And he's going up top, so I'll come down low. No sense in both of us coming from the same direction. Kind of creep in here. I don't want to go blasting, and I need him to be close enough that he can start shooting or getting their attention. Again, I don't want to get in there and get gunned down before he can get in there and start helping. There he goes. All right. So that dude's coming over here. He takes a shot and misses. The LEF does me a solid. He's down to a 1-shot, right? We've got 4 kills. There's 5 for me. The other Bassotto's up top. I think he nukes the 2640. Got him auto-aimed. Boom. We'll take him down. Did not get the 2640. So I've got 1,582. I've got 6 kills, and we'll go looking for the LEF. I know he's not too far away. The only reason I'm really going after him, it's a very slow tank, and he's really not too far away. So let's just go try to find him. If I spent a couple minutes looking in this general area and somehow he got away from me, I'd go back to cap. But there he is. So he sees me. He's looking to aim in, and we nuke him. We did 340 to him. well below the 360 alpha on that. So 7 kills, all in the strength of a 360 alpha tank in a low tier battle. Right? I'm top tier at tier 6. It doesn't happen very often, especially if you have a 3-tier spread like we did right there. But take advantage of it when you do. Almost my high score in damage, 1,922, but certainly my high score in kills at 7 kills right there. Certainly a amount of seal clubbing going on. Let's take a look at the second example. Second example here on Himmel's Overlord Dorf. Spawned into the south, headed up to the middle. This time I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. I like the camo on this thing, so what I wanted to do here was come up here and use these bushes and maybe surprise some people with hello 360 alpha. That will get your attention, and with some of the scouts and smaller tanks we have here, I can really put a hurt on them with the 360 alpha, maybe get them out of the game. I'm also looking at how many Bassottos are on both teams, and I'm figuring more than likely a good portion of those are going to be very passive, so I want to get up here and be aggressive. Notice that our Bassottos are kind of half and half. There's a couple of us up forward, and look at all these dudes. All these TDs. 1, 2, 3, 4 TDs in this back corner. KV-85 hasn't come alive yet right now. So we'll come on up here. I think the camo is good enough that I should be able to get up here without being auto-seen. You would have to be careful. If this was a tier 8 battle, say with a tier 8 scout, or even a tier 7 scout, you probably don't want to be poking up into that bush, because certainly with the CBS, but maybe even with enough burn through on some of the tier 7 scouts, you might have trouble coming up there without being spotted and immediately hit. And remember, you're only running 600 HP on this bad boy. You also can't afford to take many hits. So one of their Bassottos is kind of doing what I'm doing. I do like our 12T right here. Thanks to that guy, well done. He gets up there. As long as your scout can avoid getting taken out and you've got enough firepower to keep them honest, surfing that edge right there can cause them a lot of trouble. And although I'm looking at this going, well, a lot of their Bassottos are kind of being aggressive. I've got a good half of my team. You got the KV-85. I punished the Super Chaffee. I'm thinking it would be lovely to get rid of that guy. A good half of my team is camping. And I mean hard camping in the back. And the KV-85 is not alive. So I like the 12T's aggressiveness, but right now it is not the time for me to push up and try to get in there. Casemate has a hard time dealing with threats from multiple angles. So for the moment, we're just going to chill out here. And every chance I get to get up into this bush and get ready to take a shot, I'm going to take. Super Chaffee's over there. It'd be really nice to get rid of that dude. He takes a hit. I'm thinking, how do I get a shot on this stupid Super Chaffee? So he's hiding behind the building. I'm just hoping someone takes him down. I don't even know if the KV-85 comes alive at all during this game. I don't remember. I'll have to keep an eye on it. All right, I missed that shot because I was messing around with the Super Chaffee and the Super Chaffee, and I missed the Cromwell. That is always an issue with the casemate. And then this dude comes up. Look how long that reload is. But boom, boom. We double tap that dude and send that other 600 hit point Bassotto back to the garage and create a little bit of an advantage for ourselves with 2 of theirs dead. Big push for them over on the west side of the map. I guess it's fortunate that 1/3 of our tanks are camping down there. I started shooting them. KV-85 does come alive. I had not seen that. That's great. Off he goes, starting to play. And now we have a great advantage. And provided we don't go walking into all of their TDs, and that's what I would like to avoid, we're in good shape. And I'm starting to think about pushing up to the north side of the bull so I can then start working on shots into their backfield. That Bassotto over on the right is a bit of a problem. I noticed the AMX and the medium over there jump on him, the 3002, so that's good. That's what I needed. Once that part of the flank is secured, we'll push forward and we'll start zapping these guys. I got 1,000 damage, and we're just going to start stepping on the accelerator. There's that fairly long zoom in, and we get a shot on him. Yeah, we do get lit, so I'm going to courtesy back up. Notice how fast it is backing up. It gets, what, 15 already with the turbo? It's very nice. Very nice. The turbo allows you to get in and out, and that is an extremely important thing for a TD. There's a lot of little advantages to the turbo, and I've sort of resisted it for a long time, thinking there was just better equipment out there for gun handling and whatnot, but I'm really starting to become a believer in the turbo for all the extra little things it gets you, and then especially this part of the game, pushing forward. Chasing damage, getting in new positions, getting where you need to be, getting spotting, all of those things that are so important in the mid to late game. The turbo just increases, whatever tank it was, it just increases that tank's capability to do that. Really surprised I didn't get spotted by anything, and I finally find this guy. Like, how did he not see me? I don't really understand that unless he had just driven up there and I miss. So rush that shot a little bit. Look at all that spotting I get added on there. 696. I am the scout now. But notice his hit brought me down to kind of a one-shot to a lot of things. I get a shot on the M44, and now I'm trying to shoot this dude. Not great gun depression. I don't know if he mentioned it, but I think it's -6 or so. Boom. We one-shot that dude with 300. I mean, that's just a beautiful thing for a tier 6 with that much alpha and that good of DPM, that it can get into situations like that and just start taking things out. 2 kills. I don't think I get any more damage. There's a Bassotto. I think he dies. Yeah, Cromwell dies. No, I'm not going to get a shot on this dude. He's actually hiding over there, which surprised me a bit. I try to come around the corner. Maybe I do get the kill on him. I don't remember. Did someone misses? I do get it. That's right. I just auto-aim the dude coming around the corner, get stunned by my own arty, and that gets us to 2,002 damage with 3 kills, 696 assists on there. And it is a Rompel stomp. We didn't lose a single tank, but I think it's a good example of getting this tank forward, how you might do that, things you might think about while doing it, a little bit of a plug for the whole turbo thing and kind of how to run that large gun. That does take a little care in getting it employed, but when it does get busy and get working, it's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Only problem with both of these replays is there were so many other TDs. We're going to have to wait really 6 months down the line to see where these things shake out in terms of if I was fighting against more mediums and heavies and such. I probably would not really want to get up that close and personal early on if there were several more mediums and light tanks and maybe a couple more heavies kind of involved. You know, if there was maybe the standard 3 or 4 TDs. But as it is, we're talking about a bunch of Bassottos, so that kind of gives you an advantage to some extent as a more aggressive player, because you can count on a good number of their TDs to be hanging back, as evidenced by my team, which just covered up the red line because her TDs. Let's wrap it up. So it's a final verdict on this. I liked the tier 5, but it's a tier 5. Tier 6 is really about the lowest I play for the majority of the time. And I will say that this is a little gem at tier 6. It is quite the little bruiser. There's a couple things going against it, like its relative thin armor, its low hit points, slightly derpy gun. But with the turbo and the taming of the gun, you got a fairly agile, fast, little very sneaky TD with an extremely hard-hitting gun at 360 that can really just shut people down, especially at tier, and even against 6s and 8s. It will get 6s and 8s attention when you hit them for 360. So there's a bit of a fear factor with the big gun. That's something that doesn't get talked about a lot in this game, but a lot of times, you know, the bigger guns, it happens a little bit more at higher tiers, but people be a little more afraid to kind of walk out in front of you. So as people start to understand what this little beast brings to the game. Now, while it has great camo, it's not a particularly great sniper, although it can do that. Given it enough chances, it will eventually hit and pin. So interesting little tank, and I quite like it. I think it's one of the better tanks. It really doesn't play. There's one thing it does that the higher tiers do, and that it means it has the higher alpha. Okay, whatever the heck I'm trying to say. So as a transition, there's no autoloader here. There's no turret, but it does have a huge jump in alpha from the 110 of the earlier one, and this thing's pathetic. Stock gun, don't use it. And then it jumps to 240, and then that last gun is like 360. And then that's kind of the hallmark, fairly heavy hitting guns on these tanks up into the Minotauro up there, but then you start to add the autoloader. So the transition bit here is to start seeing a higher alpha, although this is just a cyclical one-shot gun. I think this one's going to be pretty good. We'll see where it shows up on the stats. I'm going to call it slightly above average, but it is not a TD that I dislike playing, even though it is a casemate. It's a really interesting little guy. Sneaky, hard-hitting, a little bit tricky to use at times. Slightly above average. That is all I've got. Thanks for tuning in. What do you guys think of the Bassotto? Go ahead and chuck that down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in, as always, and supporting the channel. Hit subscribe if you like what you're seeing. There's other ways to support the channel down in the description. That is all I've got for today. We will see ya.